Chosen one, the mood has flipped, because what once felt like jokes are not funny now. They're spiraling since you called out everything, point blank, period. The person who tried to bury you is pacing at night, hands unsteady, mind looping every lie and manipulation, not because you insulted them, but because you told the truth with surgical precision. This is where their miscalculation began. See, they treated laughter as a weapon. When you first spoke, they didn't just dismiss you, they orchestrated a whole performance around making you look foolish. Eye rolls, smirks, getting others to join in. They built a consensus that you were the problem. Too sensitive, too emotional, too much. They thought if enough people laughed at your truth, it would stop being true. But here's what they didn't know. Truth doesn't need validation. Truth waits. And while laughter filled the room, your words were embedding themselves into reality, like seeds in fertile soil, germinating, growing roots in places nobody could see. And now that echo is getting louder, not in your mind, in their minds, in their lives, in their relationships, in consequences knocking at their doors. They're spiraling because everything you said is happening. Every warning, every red flag, every uncomfortable truth, all of it is playing out like a prophecy they refuse to believe. What's crushing them isn't just that you were right, it's that you were precise. You weren't reacting emotionally, you were reporting facts. They assumed you were being dramatic, but you were being exact, and that precision is haunting them now. You dropped truth so sharp, it's cutting through their lies without you needing to raise your voice even once. The beautiful irony, you didn't even need to expose them with some elaborate revenge plot. You just told the truth, the simple, undeniable, factual truth. And now that truth is unfolding publicly, in the way people look at them now, in the energy they're attracting, in things falling apart around them. This isn't karma taking its sweet time. This is cause and effect, arriving exactly on schedule, and they're watching it happen in real time. Now they're pacing at night, rewriting events mentally, trying to flip the script one more time, but it's not working. Your truth aged like fine wine. It grew legs, found a microphone, and started preaching on its own. They can't unhear what you revealed, but there's something deeper happening here. This is where your power really showed itself. You didn't just call out their behavior, you went deeper. You called out what was fueling it. That's what shook them to their core. You didn't attack their personality, you exposed the spirit behind it. You stripped away all the surface-level drama and hit the real nerve. You spoke to something deeper, something darker, something way older than petty conflicts. And when you named it, everything changed. They were comfortable, as long as the dysfunction stayed hidden, but you disrupted the entire agreement they had with their own darkness. You forced them to see that this wasn't just how they are. This was what they'd partnered with, a manipulative spirit, a controlling energy. That's why they're spiraling so intensely right now, because even they can't deny anymore what's been driving them. When you named the spirit, you changed the entire dynamic. It went from personal conflict to spiritual warfare, and you came prepared. You came with discernment, real discernment, the kind that sees through dimensions. And discernment doesn't negotiate, it tells the truth straight, and truth has a violent way of shaking everything built on lies. That's why they can't sleep now. That's why paranoia has set in. That's why they're watching you from burner accounts. Because they understand that once a spirit gets identified, its power starts breaking. You were never the threat. The truth inside you was. The light you carried irritated what they were trying to protect. And when you put language to it, when you said it out loud with authority, it disrupted the whole illusion. They didn't expect you to see it. They definitely didn't expect you to say it, but you did, and now they're facing consequences they never prepared for. You pulled back the curtain on something ancient, something they thought they could keep hidden under fake smiles, but now it's wide open, and the more they deny it, the louder your words echo. Once something dark is named with authority, it can't hide anymore. Here's what they were counting on. The destruction plan. Wear you down mentally, break you emotionally, isolate you socially, finish you off quietly. They thought you wouldn't make it through with your voice stronger than before. That's what's causing full panic mode right now. You weren't supposed to heal. You weren't supposed to grow. You definitely weren't supposed to speak. Their whole strategy depended on you staying buried. That way, even if you tried to speak up later, you'd come across broken or unstable, just like they painted you. They bet everything on your silence or your self-destruction. Those were the only outcomes they prepared for. But instead, something unexpected happened. You came out the other side crystal clear, calm, collected, with receipts that shook their entire foundation. You lived through the fire they set, and now you're standing here with clarity, so sharp it cuts through their lies. You're calling out the exact games they tried to erase. You didn't just survive, you evolved into the very thing they feared most. A credible narrator, someone who lived through it, healed from it, and can now articulate it without shaking. That's dangerous to anyone who built their reputation on betting you'd stay silent forever, because now your words aren't messy, your words are measured, precise, and people are listening. They worked overtime trying to destroy your credibility before you ever opened your mouth. They smeared your name, they spun false stories, they played victim. All of that's collapsing now. Why? Because you outlived their narrative, and your presence right now, healed and grounded and powerful, is living proof that everything they said about you was fiction. The person they tried to bury alive is now the one revealing the whole truth. You weren't supposed to still be here, but you are, not just breathing, thriving, speaking with authority, shining brighter. You're the wild card they couldn't predict, the survivor they tried to silence, the witness they didn't account for. And now that you're speaking, their false story is falling apart piece by piece. They assumed you were lashing out emotionally, classic projection, but you weren't moving from pain. You were moving from clarity, from alignment, from purpose. You weren't trying to ruin anyone. You were documenting what happened, stating facts, not throwing shade. And that's what made it so devastating. You didn't curse them out. You didn't scream. You just spoke, calmly, clearly, accurately, and the truth hit harder than any revenge plot ever could. You didn't need to dramatize a single thing. The truth was dramatic enough. All you did was press play. You weren't rewriting history. You were reading it back exactly how it happened, word for word, event for event, and that scared them because the details didn't lie. You weren't emotionally spiraling. You were spiritually aligned. And when you move in alignment instead of emotion, your words carry weight that can't be dismissed. That's why they're nervous now, because they know what you said wasn't gossip, it was evidence, and evidence doesn't disappear. Your words became a mirror they can't shatter, a playback reel they can't pause. You weren't ranting, you were filing an official report to the universe, handing truth over to divine order, and now divine order is responding. Karma is clocking in, justice is suiting up. They can't accuse you of slander because your tone was calm. They can't call it exaggeration because your delivery was measured. They weren't prepared for that level of composure from someone they tried to break. They were ready for you to blow up. That would have made it easy to discredit you, but instead you chose accuracy over emotion. If you felt called by this message, hype this video so other chosen ones like you can be reached. Your truth didn't just affect them, it created a massive ripple effect through the entire community. Other people who experienced similar manipulation from them are suddenly connecting dots, suddenly remembering their own experiences, suddenly feeling permission to speak their truth too. You didn't just break your silence, you broke a collective silence that had been maintained for too long. You gave voice to others who were too afraid to speak. You validated experiences others thought they were crazy for having. You created a domino effect of truth-telling, and that's exponentially more powerful than one person's story. They're watching this happen in real time, and it's terrifying them. They see people distancing themselves. They see alliances shifting. They see the narrative changing in ways they can't control. They see their influence evaporating like morning dew under sunlight. Their charm isn't landing the way it used to. Their words don't carry the same weight anymore. Their tactics aren't working because you exposed the formula. People are now immune to strategies that used to work effortlessly on them. You didn't just expose one person. You exposed an entire methodology, a whole system of manipulation, and now everyone who learned from your truth is protected from it. That's legacy-level impact right there. What makes this even more powerful is the timing. You spoke when you were healed, not when you were wounded. You waited until you were strong enough, clear enough, grounded enough to speak without being swayed by their inevitable attempts to manipulate the narrative. You spoke from overflow, not from desperation. You spoke from power, not from pain, and that timing was divine, because when you speak from a healed place, your words carry a different frequency. They're not laced with anger or bitterness that can be used against you. They're pure, clean, sharp, undeniable, and that purity makes them impossible to dismiss as just an angry attack from a bitter person. They know the difference. They can feel it energetically. They were probably hoping you'd speak from a wounded place, so they could use your emotion against you. They were waiting to paint you as unstable, vindictive, unable to move on, but you denied them that weapon. You gave them nothing to work with except facts, just truth, just reality spoken clearly, and against that, they have no defense. All they can do is watch as everything they built crumbles. Watch as people wake up. Watch as consequences arrive like bills coming due. Watch as karma delivers exactly what they earned. And watch as you walk away free while they remain imprisoned by their own lies and the weight of their deception. Let's talk about the transformation happening in you that's making them spiral even harder. Because it's not just about what you said, it's about who you've become. You're radiating a confidence they can't fake, a peace they can't manufacture, a clarity they can't replicate. You're walking in an authority that comes from alignment with truth, and that authority is magnetic. People are drawn to it. They want to know your secret. They want to understand how you went from being silenced to being so powerfully vocal, how you went from being manipulated to being completely free, how you transformed pain into power. And every person who asks you that question is another person who sees through their facade. They watch this happening, and it drives them crazy, because you're not just surviving. You're thriving in ways that make their previous control over you look like a distant bad dream. You're building new relationships based on authenticity, creating opportunities based on truth, attracting people who value realness over performance. And that's the life they'll never have, as long as they keep living in deception. They see what's possible when you choose truth, and it's everything they're too cowardly to reach for, so they spiral harder, watching you win by simply being real, while they exhaust themselves maintaining an elaborate system of lies. There's also something happening that they can't see but you can feel. The universe is responding to your courage. Doors are opening that were previously closed. Opportunities are appearing out of nowhere. Connections are forming that feel divinely orchestrated. Protection is surrounding you in ways you can sense. Favor is finding you in unexpected places, not because you manipulated or schemed or forced anything, but because you aligned yourself with truth, and truth is a frequency that the universe rewards. Divine intelligence recognizes when someone chooses integrity over comfort, when someone chooses clarity over chaos, when someone chooses freedom over fake peace, and it responds accordingly. You're experiencing that response right now. Synchronicities, blessings, unexpected victories, divine appointments, all because you spoke truth. Meanwhile, they're experiencing the opposite, doors closing in their face, opportunities evaporating before they can grasp them, connections dissolving like sugar in water. Their life is contracting while yours is expanding, and they know it's connected to what you revealed. They can feel the spiritual shift, the energetic rebalancing, the cosmic correction, and it terrifies them because they can't manipulate their way out of divine consequences. They can lie to people, but they can't lie to the universe. They can gaslight others, but they can't gaslight karma. They can manipulate perceptions, but they can't manipulate truth itself. And truth is having the final word in this situation, and that's what really broke someone. The part that sent things into a full meltdown wasn't just that you exposed one person, it's that you exposed everyone who kept the mess covered. You didn't just shine a flashlight on one individual, you lit up the whole room, and suddenly all the people who clapped for lies, who nodded while you were being destroyed, who watched harm happen in silence, now had to look in the mirror too. That's what triggered the complete spiral. You called out the entire ecosystem that protected manipulation. You forced people to confront their role in enabling abuse. The ones who looked away, who said stay out of it, who saw what was happening and chose convenience over conscience. You made it uncomfortable to stay neutral. And for people who survived by pretending not to see, that's devastating. Because now silence is part of the exposure. Applause is part of the guilt. The main person you called out wasn't just scared of personal exposure. Terror existed about being fully seen, and now everyone can finally see what you were trying to say all along. The illusion is collapsing in real time. The filters are gone. The reputation that got curated is dissolving, not just in private, but in front of the whole audience. It was all good when truth stayed as whispers, but when you came forward with clarity, the game changed completely. You gave people zero room to twist it. You pulled out the timeline, the patterns, the red flags, and you did it in a way that made it impossible to ignore. The audience that was performed for is now backing away, questioning everything. Some are even apologizing to you behind closed doors. You didn't just interrupt the show, you shut down the entire production. That's why the spiral is so intense. It's the collapse of a lie that depended on everyone staying blind. But now the mask isn't just off, it's in your hand, and everyone saw you remove it with authority. You didn't just catch someone in a single lie. You exposed the entire operation, the whole system. That's what really sent things over the edge. You didn't just point out the bad behavior. You revealed how it was all strategically built. The lies weren't random. The manipulation wasn't impulsive. It was a calculated system designed to control outcomes, protect image, keep you and others confused or broken. Readiness didn't exist for someone who could trace patterns instead of just reacting to incidents. You saw how it all connected like a master detective, how victim got played to some while you got villainized to others, how relationships got triangulated, how charm got used as a mask for control. You saw the whole machine, and then you broke it down out loud. You didn't just tell people what happened, you told them how it happened, why it kept happening, what it was really about, the strategy behind the madness. That's why the spiral is so hard, because you didn't hit anyone with random accusations. You brought blueprints. You exposed the entire formula. You revealed that this wasn't a one-time situation. This was a lifestyle, an operating system, a rehearsed act with moving parts, and a backstage full of lies and manipulation tactics. People were used to being fooled one interaction at a time. But when you revealed the infrastructure, people started connecting dots, started realizing it wasn't just you. This con has been running for a long time, getting away with it because nobody traced the whole system until now. Now eyes are opening everywhere. Patterns are being recognized. Even the most loyal supporters are distancing themselves, not because anyone believes you blindly, but because the architecture of deceit finally has a spotlight on it. You didn't just tell on someone. You told the truth behind the person. You hit the root. And now that people understand the game, it can't be played the same way. The illusion is broken beyond repair. Work went into creating an image for a long time, a carefully constructed version that could never be questioned. To some people, the role was the selfless helper. To others, the innocent victim. Different costumes got worn depending on who was watching, each one designed to protect from accountability. And for a long time it worked brilliantly. People bought every bit of it. Roles got played so convincingly that even you doubted what you experienced. That's how good the act was. But then you did something that wasn't prepared for. You told the truth with zero sugarcoating. No filters, no theatrics, no mercy. You didn't just expose what got done. You exposed who someone really was underneath the performance. And once you did that, the entire show collapsed. The script fell apart mid-scene. The audience shifted uncomfortable. The lights came on bright, and someone stood there, stripped of every mask and every excuse, fully exposed. You didn't embarrass anyone. You revealed. You showed people that the kindness was transactional. The humility was a front for control. The tears weren't sorrow. The tears were strategy, tools in a manipulation toolkit. And now that everyone can see it clearly, desperate scrambling is happening. But there's nothing left to hide behind. The disguise got destroyed in real time. The knowing exists that going back to pretending isn't possible. That's why the spiral is getting harder each day. When the martyr role gets tried now, people pause. When a side gets told, people remember what you said, and how accurate it was, how it lined up with what got noticed but couldn't be named. The costume that used to slip on easily now looks ridiculous, fake, transparent. The misunderstood hero role is gone. What remains is just a manipulator with a well-rehearsed act that finally got exposed. The worst part, you didn't need to scream or exaggerate even once. You calmly described what everyone had already seen but couldn't put into words. And once something gets named with that kind of clarity, it can't go unseen. The mask didn't slip off accidentally. You removed it with authority mid-performance. And now someone is standing in front of the very people who got fooled with nothing but the real self exposed, raw, ugly, manipulative. An entire empire got constructed on top of you keeping quiet. Reputation, relationships, even spiritual standing, all of it depended on one critical thing, you staying silent. As long as you didn't speak, the perfect story could keep getting crafted. As long as you held your tongue, the good one role could continue, the wise one, the victim in every situation. But the moment you opened your mouth and told the simple truth, the entire illusion began to crumble like a sandcastle in a tsunami. You weren't out to destroy anyone. That's what can't be comprehended. You were simply done protecting the lie, done carrying someone's reputation, done being the foundation for a fake image. And that lie was the only glue holding the persona together. You didn't need to twist anything. All you had to do was speak the truth. And that alone caused the foundation to crack straight down the middle. Because that foundation was never solid. It got built on your silence, your restraint, your suffering, your refusal to fight dirty. People don't realize how many fake people stay standing simply because real ones refuse to speak. You were protecting by default, not because it got deserved, but because you had integrity, standards, character. But when you finally broke that silence, it became crystal clear to everyone that the entire persona was pure performance. You didn't need a smear campaign. Your lived experience, calmly spoken and clearly remembered and undeniably real, was enough to bring the whole empire crashing down. And that's what's tearing someone apart inside. Not that you lied, but that you told the truth. A truth so undeniable that it exposed how much character was completely curated, fake, manufactured. The spiral is happening because the understanding exists. That image wasn't destroyed by some outside enemy. It collapsed from the inside the moment you decided to stop carrying the weight. The desire was to look strong and wise, but only if you stayed small and quiet. Once you spoke up, it was game over. You simply exhaled, and the entire house of cards came tumbling down. Look, you already know the attacks weren't random, and if you're paying attention, you can feel it. Their walls are closing in, so let's talk about what we're doing about it. That's why I built Destiny Engine. It generates personalized sequences that help you rewire betrayal into transcendence, turn isolation into sacred power, and transform their downfall into your rise. We are using the Dark Elite's own weapons against them, taking their declassified consciousness technology that programmed competition and scarcity and repurposing it to serve cooperative intelligence. The beauty is you don't even have to lift a finger. You put on the headphones, press play, and your subconscious is rewired while your enemies collapse under the weight of their own lies. This is why I created it in the beginning, so everything they did to break you becomes fuel for your purpose. The collective upgrade is underway. Start your Destiny Engine for $1 today and watch divine justice accelerate in your life. Link in the description. For a long time, control existed over how every story got told. Timelines got twisted like a corrupt editor. Facts got rearranged like puzzle pieces. Roles got assigned like a manipulative director. The casting was always as the victim or the wise one, and you got painted as unstable, too sensitive, too emotional. The entire show got directed from behind the scenes. People got fed just enough half-truths mixed with emotional manipulation to keep the spotlight exactly where it was wanted. It wasn't just about control, it was about complete ownership of the narrative. But then you found your voice, not a loud, chaotic voice, a calm, clear, undeniably accurate voice. And with that voice, the story started to shift dramatically. You didn't just speak up. You told it better than it ever could be told by anyone else. You brought context that got removed, details that got buried, memory that was thought to be lost, with receipts, not necessarily in text form, but in energy, in accuracy, in the way your truth resonated. And suddenly, people who had been clapping started sitting back, squinting, questioning absolutely everything thought to be known. Now the confusion is entirely on the other side. The control that once got held so tightly has slipped completely through fingers like water. Desperate scrambling is happening to reframe the narrative one more time, but nothing's landing. Words don't hit anymore. Manipulation doesn't move people. Looking completely out of place is happening in a story that no longer bends favorably, because now you're the narrator. You control the pen, and the wildest part, you're not even being dramatic about it, just speaking from a place of pure truth, and it's working powerfully. People are realizing in real time that the version that got sold was complete fiction, and what you're offering, it's real, it lines up, makes sense, feels true, and that's absolutely killing the control that once existed. Full panic mode is happening, because when control of a lie gets lost, all that's left is exposure. The grip didn't just get lost, the ability to write the script got lost. The show has flipped completely, and for the first time in a manipulative career, the hero role is gone. You are the hero now. This is where you really dominated. You didn't come with vague accusations or messy emotions. You came with surgical precision. You weren't just telling stories, you were laying out an airtight timeline, connecting dots that were thought to be impossible to connect, recalling specific conversations word for word, tone shifts, manipulative patterns. The exact ways movement happened in darkness, thinking no one was watching. You didn't throw around random blame. You named what happened, exactly how it happened, when, why, and you did it with a clarity that stunned everyone. That's what made your truth hit like a meteor strike. You weren't trying to be heard. You were stating documented facts, and the facts were so specific, so precise, so spot-on accurate, that there was absolutely nowhere to hide, no wiggle room, no plausible deniability. You didn't stumble across the truth by accident. You lived it. You studied it like a subject, remembered every detail, and when the time came you spoke it without fear or hesitation. That's what exposed absolutely everything, not the volume, the accuracy, the precision. You broke down tactics so clearly that even people who once defended someone fiercely had to pause and reconsider. The way blame gets deflected, the way meanings get twisted, the fake apologies, the calculated kindness before a blow-up. You laid out the entire playbook in such detail it was impossible to deny, because the truth didn't sound bitter coming from you. It sounded familiar, too familiar. People recognize the patterns from their own experiences. That's why the response isn't just anger or embarrassment. It's absolute terror. You didn't guess the game, you understood it completely. And when you truly understand a manipulator's full pattern, that manipulator loses all power. The knowing exists, that the same script can't get run anymore. And worse, the knowing exists, that you've exposed it to everyone else. You didn't just call out what got done, you identified the dark energy behind it, named the spirit, and now that it's been identified publicly, its grip is breaking daily. People are looking differently now, not because you told them to, but because your accuracy rearranged the entire atmosphere. That's what made the real difference. Not drama, not rage, just truth told with surgical clarity and spiritual authority. This might be the most devastating part. Walking around happened cloaked in spiritual language, using scripture as a shield, prayer circles as cover, high-vibe mantras as armor, not to heal or grow, but to hide and manipulate. The thinking was because verses could get quoted, or candles could get lit, or spiritual cliches could get spoken, it somehow excused the damage getting done behind the scenes. Grace got weaponized. Hiding happened behind forgiveness. Words like love and light got thrown over, behavior that was anything but. And for a while it worked perfectly. People didn't question it because the look was so spiritual, the sound was so wise, the appearance was so enlightened. But then you showed up and told the simple truth. You shattered the illusion of spiritual superiority with something that wasn't expected. Real discernment, authentic spiritual sight. You weren't moved by the performance, not impressed by the show. You saw straight past the incense, the Bible studies, the affirmations, the carefully curated image. You spoke truth with surgical clarity, and when you did, all the spiritual smoke that got used to confuse and manipulate people started clearing immediately. You didn't come with drama or pettiness. You came with revelation, divine revelation, and that's something fake spirituality absolutely cannot withstand. Getting away with manipulation, dressed up as boundaries used to happen. Gaslighting got hidden under protecting peace. Cruelty got masked as divine instruction to distance. Control got disguised as spiritual leadership. But your truth pierced straight through all that nonsense, like a sword through paper. You made it crystal clear. Real spirituality isn't a shield for shady behavior. Grace doesn't cover what refuses to get confronted, and the divine doesn't co-sign manipulation, period. The moment you exposed that truth, the spiritual safety net evaporated instantly. Language lost all power, the aura dimmed, the false light went out. People started seeing the glaring contradiction, how words got spoken about the divine, but integrity didn't get embodied. How healing got preached, but harm got caused, how energy got talked about, but ego did the moving, how scripture got quoted, but lies got lived, and that's when everything started breaking down. Now feelings are happening about what was once thought to be immune from, consequences, real repercussions, karma, divine justice, not because you wished it or cursed it, but because truth has a law of return, a spiritual principle of balance, and the truth you spoke activated something that no prayer circle or carefully curated persona can stop or slow down. Protection is gone now. The shield is gone, because the cover was never real to begin with. It got built on lies and manipulation, and now that it's been stripped away completely, what's coming isn't random, it's justice, it's alignment, it's divine order restoring balance to a situation that got corrupted. Let's be absolutely clear. Chosen One, you didn't come to destroy, you came to tell the truth. You didn't lash out emotionally, you didn't plot elaborate revenge. All you did was stop protecting the lie, stop carrying their reputation, stop playing the role they assigned to you. And when you did, the entire illusion they built started crumbling under the weight of your clarity and your truth. They're not spiraling because you hurt them. They're spiraling because you disarmed them completely, with truth, with calmness, with discernment, with spiritual authority. You didn't play their game, you named it, exposed it, ended it, and when you did that, you became everything they feared most: undeniable, unbothered, unstoppable, unshakable. They tried to hide behind pity, behind charm, behind false spirituality and collective gaslighting, behind enablers and defenders, but your voice was louder than all their performances combined, not because you shouted, but because you spoke with divine authority. Every word you released became a mirror, a spotlight, a reckoning. And now they're running out of people to fool, running out of places to hide. This was never about vengeance or getting even. This was about release, liberation. You released yourself from the burden of silence. You released them from the fantasy they created. You released the truth into the atmosphere. And in doing so, you let divine justice take its natural course. You didn't need to push the tower. You just stepped back, and it collapsed all on its own under the weight of its own lies. So stand firm in your power, Chosen One, because you're not the villain in this story. You never were. You're the plot twist nobody saw coming. You're the interruption that exposed a long-running illusion. You're the narrator now, and truth is finally being told on your terms, in your voice, with your authority. Let their spiral continue. Let their performance happen. Let their panic set in. Let their scrambling intensify. Because the truth doesn't need defending. It doesn't need your protection. It just needs to be told. And you told it flawlessly, powerfully, accurately, completely. And if anger is the response, that's just proof you hit the nerve that needed to be hit. That's confirmation you spoke the truth that needed to be spoken. That's evidence you ended a game that needed to end. Remember what we said at the very beginning. The truth doesn't destroy people. It destroys illusions, and some people are made entirely of those. Well, Chosen One, you just proved it. You just demonstrated it. You just lived it. And now everyone can see what you saw all along. The laughter has stopped. The echo has grown. The spiral continues. And you're standing exactly where you were meant to stand. In your power, in your truth, in your victory. Welcome to the other side of silence. This is where your real power lives. This is where the Chosen Ones rise. And this is where illusions die.